Hi Anti-Society, welcome back to the Anti-Social Planet, and today we are watching episodes 284, 285, and 286 of Bleach. So we have 3 episodes again because 287 is a filler, so we're skipping over it for right now, and honestly, I don't know if I'm prepared. I feel like I was like, yeah, we'll just do 3 episodes together, but I didn't know what the episodes were going to be about. I didn't know that we were getting into possibly some of Aizen finally getting involved in the conflict, so I don't really know what I'm about to get myself into for a lot of these episodes. I know that the next one we're getting some kind of Halibel backstory, so at least that'll probably be like fairly chill, but I am worried about exactly what I am about to spend 3 episodes watching. So we'll see. We did get to see some interesting fights in the last one. We saw the end of Stark, which actually made me a lot more emotional than I thought it would because of the whole like Lilith thing. He just wanted friends. You know, he just wanted friends. And I feel like I just want to hug him and tell him it'll be okay. But at the same time, I'd probably like injure me in some way because of his like spiritual pressure, so I don't know if I could, but the thought is what counts. And so we saw the end of Stark. We also potentially are seeing the end of Halibel because Aizen decided that he didn't need her anymore. She was no longer of use. So we saw him attacking her and deciding that he is going to finally join into this fight in some capacity with Gin and Tosen by his side. Not really sure how that's gonna turn out. We still have Yamamoto, who I feel pretty confident in. We got to see some of Shinsui's power, which seems very like there's a lot of potential to that power, so I'm really not sure if that is going to be a deciding factor in some way. Everyone's kind of exhausted. I think that that's the thing that worries me the most is everyone's kind of beat up and exhausted and they've all been through some stuff, and I'm just worried about them like only just now getting into like the real fighters, you know, Tosen, Gin, Aizen, and I'm just worried that something bad is going to happen. But I also predict that we are going to be going back to Hueco Mundo briefly to deal with Yammy because he's the only Espada left. And of course we still have like Ichigo going through his whole, I don't know, second layer of holification that was going on, and we've got the other captains that are still stranded there. I don't know what Urahara's doing or Yoroichi, any of that. What's Ishin up to? Is he okay? Does he know what's going on with Ichigo? I don't know. There's a lot of stuff kind of up in the air right now, but it looks like we are going to get some Halibel backstory, kind of get a better feel for who she is. At least that's the only thing that we saw in the preview, and kind of see why she was joining in with Aizen. So let's just get into episode 284. In 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, are those the other Arrancar that she was fighting with in the living world? I'm trying to like remember their names now. Makes me feel bad that I don't really remember. But one of them was like a deer, right? And a snake. I can't remember the other one. I'm assuming we'll see. You know you've gotten far in an arc when you're watching the opener and you're like, oof, I remember when all those characters were still alive. Just saying. You get to a point where you're like, start being able to count off the ones that didn't make it. I'm still very worried about how Ichigo is doing. Like from a mental side of things, but also just like generally. Persistent, yes. Able to go up against Aizen when he's displeased with her performance, not so much. Aren't Halibel's Arrancar, like, subordinates still technically alive? Like, Yamamoto didn't kill them, so, like, is Aizen gonna get rid of them, or are they just gonna have to deal with the fact that Halibel has been killed? That little smirk, too. I'm gonna go on a limb and say that Halibel's wounds in that scene there is more gruesome in the manga. Calling it right now. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is one of the Arrancar that was fighting as like a subordinate of Halibel with the like uh lightning bolt design. True. I don't like the drool. I mean, she's already pretty powerful at this point, given the humanoid form. The lion. That was the other one. So they've been fighting from the very beginning, huh? So she's always been a group thinker. That's very uncommon from the hollows that we've seen up to this point. Except, like, maybe Nell. It's quite a statement. It does kind of confirm that hollows do, in fact, have a sense of gender, though. Which is something that I've questioned before, but whether or not gender applies to hollows in general. Oof. Halibel seems pretty chill for a hollow of any kind. Hello, Baragan. So they met previous to being a Spada. I guess they would if Baragan's like that important. Seems unlikely. I will be interested to see why Halibel decided to join with Aizen, though, because she seems to be kind of pro women and doesn't seem like the type to bow before a male of any kind. So, which I'm assuming is part of her aversion to being part of Baragan's army. She might also just like not like Baragan, which I mean, fair enough. He's smirking again. That always makes me uncomfortable. Oh, so is this literally like right before they showed up to see Baragan. Interesting. Oh, the story's starting to interweave. Oh, the Arrancar? Seems like some interesting foreshadowing. Oh, the guy from earlier, but in Arrancar form. They're both like shark designs though. One's the hammerhead and then one's, I'm assuming, another kind of shark. Standard kind of shark. I don't know much about sharks. So maybe she makes a deal with Aizen because of the power. Like partly because I think she wants power, and then partly because she wants to protect, these three hollows that she has. I mean, there's somewhat less stakes to this, and then I know that they survive up until like the present, so well, they're kind of a little worse for wear in the present, but well, that didn't happen, so I'm gonna assume this doesn't end well. I bet she's terrified of losing them, though. She seems like the type that is very attached to them and to just like people she decides to take responsibility for. She's got moves though, even before all of the water and cascade and stuff. Ugh. It's interesting because like this is a interesting parallel to her fighting Toshiro later, or like wanting to fight Yamamoto specifically. A similar idea of her fighting out of a place of kind of vengeance as opposed to uh, just sort of because she wants to fight. Oof, dis though. Well, see, that's what I was saying before. I'm like, I feel like she might be a little bit resentful that she has to kind of bow to someone else's power and ability, but if it means that she's strong enough to protect people who matter to her, then she'll probably do it anyway. Not a good idea, but I like the spirit. Yeah, always the illusions. She did make him attack her twice, though, which is saying something for people go up against Aizen, honestly. A lot of them look tired, though, and like beat up, which worries me. The real fight, though, is going to be against Aizen. Ugh. The Espada stories keep getting getting to me. I always sort of saw Halibel as a little bit different though, because I remember when we saw her reaction to her subordinates being attacked, that she had like a very noticeable reaction to that, as opposed to like emotional reaction to that, as opposed to some of the other ones. Like Baragan seeing his subordinates get attacked just made him like angry that he had to get involved, whereas like Halibel was legitimately concerned about them and wanted to take like get revenge against Yamamoto and stuff like that, which already marks her as different from the Espada we've seen up to this point. Especially since a lot of them like don't have subordinates, like they don't bother, or they're like throwaway ones that don't like actually have, like they're not actually like Arrancar, they're just sort of throwaway, I don't know, almost like dolls. We'll see if I'm right that we're gonna shift back to Yami though. Oh, it looks like we're still Ichigo though. So maybe we're switching back and forth between Living World and uh Mundo. Is it Yoruichi? I'm trying to think if there's a time when we saw Halibel get involved in a fight that wasn't directly related to someone getting attacked and like her trying to defend them or protect them. And I don't think there is, which is like a wonderful little detail that didn't click in my brain until I was watching this episode, but totally fits with who she is as a character. And I love that we keep getting these backstories for them. Obviously, we only got a little bit from Stark and like Baragan, and it wasn't quite as extensive as I think like Grimjo's was. Like I feel like we spent a lot of time with Grimjo's backstory in particular, but part of that is because it was explaining to the audience for the first time like kind of how hollows get more powerful and how they like rise up this hierarchy. So I kind of understand why we spent more time with that, whereas like Stark and Halibel, it was more about the emotional side of it and kind of humanizing these characters, especially like before they were, at least in the case of Halibel, before they were Arrancar. I think Stark was already Arrancar, like naturally, but Halibel was still just Vestalorde. So even though Halibel is technically not like as human as like some of these Arrancar and other hollow characters that we have seen, she still has a lot of that those human characteristics in her. And I think it's very interesting that she feels very protective and she feels very much like she needs to gather people together and kind of look out for them, but also like have that company. I feel like it's a lot like we saw with Stark, where he was kind of seeking out hollows and wanting to find that sense of, you know, having comrades and having people that he could just be around. Like even if they weren't friends or anything like that, like he just wanted to have someone around that was going to be powerful enough to withstand that. So he kept like trying to find these hollows and it never worked out until of course he joined up with Aizen. And I feel like Halibel, because she's at like a slightly lower level of power, it was a lot easier for her to find that companionship, which is not something that we've seen a lot from the Espada, but like Arrancar and hollows in general, they tend to be very like individual in that like it's literally an eat or be eaten kind of world. Like you could be eaten by anybody that you're in close proximity to. So they tend to not kind of form together. I guess like Grimjo also had like a group of hollows around him. And of course I mentioned Nell, who also had some hollows around her. So it does kind of happen, but then there's also instances where isn't applicable to the like driving factors of the hollow. I think I just I find Halibel a very interesting character in general because I feel like there's so much, there's almost like a sense of sorrow to her that I don't fully understand. Like in the case of Stark, I get it because his thing is like isolation and that's something that he's had to deal with constantly. Halibel, I'm not entirely sure like what this kind of somber and almost like grieving, I don't know, vibe to who she is. And it just makes me more interested to see, like, to kind of figure out who she is and why her character works the way that it does. And I was definitely interested to see why she decided to side with Aizen, like, why that was something that she wanted to do, because it didn't seem like power was something that she wanted just for the sake of power. Like, Baragan wanted to be a god, and that's like what he did. That's why he sought after all of his power and stuff like that, and of course ended up having to bow before Aizen and was a little bit disgruntled about that. We even had Grimjo, who he wanted power, that was who he was. And then you have Halibel, who like wanted power but not like for the sake of power, but for the sake of protecting those around her. So overall, just like a really intriguing backstory. I feel like we're never gonna find out more about her. Maybe I will if I like read the manga and like dive deeper into kind of all of these other materials and stuff. Once I'm caught up with the actual main story of the anime, I can kind of explore more and see some like theories and stuff like that. But yeah, Halle Bell's just always been an intriguing kind of outlier in my brain of the Espada, given how she seems far more emotionally attached to others than a lot of the other ones are. But it does look like we are going to possibly get a little bit of the story that is going on in Hueco Mundo. We did see Shinji and Hiyori in the preview, so it looks like we are still going to be seeing some of the living world and the fights with Gin and Tosen. I'm assuming maybe like a slight bit into Aizen, because we're gonna save Aizen until like the very end, obviously. So hopefully we will get to see some of Hueco Mundo as well. We got to see a little bit of Ichigo in the preview, which, I mean, it has been a hot minute since we saw Ichigo. So I am interested to see him, check in with him, how he's doing. We obviously have to deal with Yammy at some point, though I didn't see him in the preview, so I don't know if we're fully going to get back into that fight, but I assume we will soon. So lots of intense stuff coming up, I'm sure, after this little heartbreak I had about the last couple of Espada. I don't know why they keep making me emotional. I've given up at this point. But let's just get into episode 285 in 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, we're beginning with yelling. That's something. Oh, okay, Yummy. I was wrong. We are getting back to that. I don't like that you're hitting Renji. Well, that seems ominous too. You know what? I'm gonna get Totoro right now because I got a feeling that this episode is not gonna be kind to my heart. Who's gonna go up against Aizen first, though? I know Shinji wants to, but he's kind of fighting Gin. Kiyori? Who's what happened to Wonder Waste again? Or just clicked in my brain that I'm like, we like reintroduced Wonder Waste and then like didn't do anything about that. Are they still just like screaming into the abyss? Like, what's going on? Being reminded of Baragan? Maybe it's just like Hachi, where he's at. Or are we just recounting the fall of the Espada? Poor Stark. Didn't even want to be here in the fight. Just didn't want to be alone. I do like that we got like one of the Visor defeating one of the top three Espada, or one of the three Espada, and then we had member of Soul Society defeating one of them, and then Halibel falling to Aizen, but like equality, you know? Visor also doing a good job. Enough of them do look exhausted though that it worries me. Hiyori and like Lisa have probably been in their hollow form for a while now too. They probably have to switch back soon. There's Wonder Weiss. Still kicking. Doesn't seem to be doing a very good job though. Really? So she doesn't have the same limit that the other ones do? Or is she just talking big? She seems to be doing a lot better than some of the other ones in hollow form. Oh no, her little neck scarf. It doesn't look like Wonder Weiss has used their weapon though. Ooh. Uh-oh. Ah, so she was talking big with the fact that her mask could last for that long. Oh, I don't like that look. Isn't Kenson still around though? To like, yeah, to be protector. One-handed. I mean, I guess Wonder Weiss doesn't look like there's much weight to them. Oh, poor thing. I believe you will. Aw, they care about each other. I love how Visor just like It's such a nice little family looking out for each other. Hasn't even put his mask on yet. Like he's not in hollow form. He's just throwing Wonder Wise around anyway. Oof. I would wonder if like Wonder Wise had any kind of fighting ability given that doesn't really seem like they don't seem very like strategic or with details or anything. Ooh. Okay, but like why are Kenson's powers always really cool? Even though this isn't the same as what he had in Soul Society with the like pendulum arc. Oh, look at the framing of that shot though. Can we appreciate that for a second? The like explosion directly behind him, like backlighting him. Sorry, aesthetics distract me sometimes. I hope Hiyori gets a good hit in. At least one. Like all of her memories are just her kicking people in the face. All the shots of Shinji are just her kicking him directly in the face. Which I mean, fair enough. True. He does use basically everybody though. He seems unbothered though. So did like Gin just let Shinji leave? Oof. I feel like he's definitely trying to push them. But I think also part of it's just confidence. I don't feel good about her winning a fight though. Like I said, one good hit. Just the one good hit, and then we'll figure out how to actually defeat him later. Will Tosin show up again? Or are they letting Aizen fight? That looks like Geen. Yeah. I would assume Hachi's Kido is somewhat limited now that he can't do like gestures. Mm. They need Hime. It's a good question. I was not prepared to cry during this though. Ugh. Finally back. How you doing, hun? You okay? All things considered. I wonder I wonder how Ichigo's gonna feel about fighting though. Like he's probably gonna be a little bit freaked out by his hollow side. Because he's not gonna want to like lose control again. And I don't know if there's like levels to it where he can like be like kind of what we've seen before and then like the really powerful one, or if it's just like on or off. I guess we'll find out, but I'm still upset about Hiyori. I'm still like my brain is still like emotionally there. I do like getting to see my boy again though. Well, you tried, and that's what really counts. And also, Ichigo's coming, so we'll see how that turns out. It could kind of go either way at this point. It could be great, or it might turn out not the best. Okay, I don't appreciate you calling them trash. They're important to me. I wonder if Yami's very fast in this form. Because just because he's big doesn't mean that he's like not. It doesn't necessarily mean that he's slow, but he doesn't seem to be moving around as like he doesn't exactly seem to be agile in the way that like Grimjo or Halibel or Ulquiorra were with their fighting. Oof. I mean, that's one way to get away from him, I guess. Oof. Okay, but like, how metal would it be if Ichigo just dropped from the sky and chopped off his arm? Just saying. Oof. Still fighting to the end, though. I feel like he's acting. Oof, that would hurt hitting sand, too. How was Ichigo just yelling if his mouth wasn't open? Just saying. Ugh. This is gonna be too stressful for me. I've been through a lot already, but this is definitely. I feel like I was. I was like, oh, tensed up for a good portion of that. It's fine. Everything will be okay. The thing too is I'm like, oh, like Ichigo should show up and help because that's usually a good thing, but at the same time I'm like, well, what if it's like not a good thing in this instance? Because like if he doubts himself or like so he doesn't use his hollow form, but then if he doesn't doubt himself, does use his hollow form, then he might lose control again, and if he stabs another character that I like, we're gonna have an issue. But I also think that like maybe the other captains will show up. What are they doing? What's Kenpachi doing? Is he just like hanging out? But there's a fight going on? I don't believe it. Even if they are trying to work out a way to get back to the living world to help it with the whole Aizen situation. Ooh, we are seeing some of the captains in the preview. Kenpachi Byakuya. It's a good sign. Oh, is it just like one of her? Yeah, yeah. That's something she would definitely do. I could just see it. So it looks like if I thought that the previous stuff was stressful, that this is definitely going to be stressful for me. I just I didn't expect to be super emotional about Hiyori. Like, not that I don't like her as a character, I think that she has some funny moments. She's definitely a go-getter, and she kind of balances out some of the more subdued characters, especially within Visored. But I didn't expect to, like, legitimately get super emotional about her getting hurt, even though, like, I knew that it wouldn't work out for her going up against Aizen, but I did want her to, like, at least get a little bit of a fight in, you know? Just for like the satisfaction of seeing somebody like just go off on Aizen. But it does look like maybe we are going to be focusing on Huecamundo like I thought, so this is kind of like a transition from like we spent part of the episode in the living world and then we switched back to Huecamundo, so it does look like we're going to be dealing with Yammy. We have Ichigo getting back into things. I'm really nervous about how he's going to deal with all of this, partly because he's just gone through a bit of a traumatic moment for him, but also I worry about what will happen if he needs to use his hollow form. I assume he will going up against Yami, but if he does, I I doubt whether or not he'll want to use it, and I also think maybe he's justified in not wanting to use it yet, with his friends very close by and him really not having any proper training on how to use it. So I do worry about that too, but it does look like the captains perhaps are getting involved. We did see Kenpachi and Byakuya being next to Ichigo, so I assume that they are going to help out and maybe help conquer Yami in the last Espada with Ichigo so that maybe he doesn't have to go into hollow form. I will be curious to see if they have any reaction to Ichigo's transformation that happened. Like, obviously they sensed it, so I wonder how they feel about it, what their thoughts are. Not that like Byakuya is the most like expressive person that we've met in the show, but he's definitely observant, and I feel like both him and Kenpachi will have some thoughts about what exactly is going on with Ichigo. I worry about Mayuri finding out about it because he's definitely gonna want to like experiment on Ichigo, and I don't like the implications of that. But if I had to guess, it would be Mayuri is currently figuring out how to get back into the living world, because I feel like that's where his mind would be best used. Also because he knew Urahara, so if Urahara is working on it, then Mayuri may also be helping with that in some capacity. I don't know how connected those two have been, over this last 100 years. But perhaps they've got something worked out, some contingency for if they got trapped in Hueco Mundo. I'm sure we'll find out eventually, but until then, it does look like we were focusing on Ichigo getting back into it, fighting against Yammy. We'll see how that's gonna turn out because I'm very worried, but I do like that we are getting back into the captain's story because we did leave them for quite a while, getting to see Ichigo, Renji, Sado, and Rukia all again when we kind of left them for a while to be in the living world. So very much looking forward to seeing some of their story again, even if I again have to be stressed about a character in the other like plot line being injured. Like I need them to close off some of it. You know, I understand the cliffhanger is to keep people watching and interested, but like I'm gonna keep watching, so I just like, can we just like close that off a little bit nicer so that I can like have one less thing to stress about? But anyway, let's just get into episode 286 in 3, 2, 1, go. Ichigo! Oh, he looks ready to like beat Yami up. Is he is going hollow? Ooh! Oh, it looked like he had his mask, but like not the same as the like, I don't know, creature that he became later on. So maybe there are like levels to it. There's like first release, second release, kind of like what Ulquiorra had. So perhaps he is able to use his hollow ability to some extent without it being like normal Soul Reaper to like, I don't know, weird demon power. I'm like unreasonably excited that Kenpachi is gonna be in an episode again though. He's a very intense person, and I feel like maybe he's not like the nicest person, but I like him a lot. And I don't know what to do with that. I feel like when we first met him, I was like, nope, he makes me uncomfortable, don't like him. And now I'm just like, I have a sweet spot for him though. I think it's like a similar thing to how I felt about Ikagu though. Like Ikagu, I was like, nah, at the beginning. And then now he's Ikagu, and I'm so excited when he shows up. Wait, you're gonna replay the thing with Hiyori, and I'm not going through that without some Totoro support. It's not even just like her getting hurt that gets to me, it's all of Vizard's reactions to her getting hurt. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that this is also more gruesome in the manga. Because it almost looked like he's like cutting her in half, and then it doesn't look that way in the anime because censoring. So I'm gonna assume it's more gruesome. Kind of like what happened with Matsumoto, where it was like way worse in the manga. She still has that little smile though, the smirk. Hime. Okay, but like they imply that like Shinji is picturing her healing Ichigo, and I'm like, Shinji wasn't there though. So like how does Shinji know that Orihime can heal like death and near death wounds. My poor sweet boy. And my other poor sweet boy. Ishida, my other sweet boy, is also hurt. Poor Rukia is going through all this. You can really like see how desperate Rukia is in this moment though. She's just like, a little nod to the animation. Like you can kind of see it in her eyes that she's desperately trying to figure out a way to get out of the situation. Oof. Ichigo! He did make it in time. Ugh, that determined look in his eye, though. He's gonna beat Yami up. Well, see, he's already doing the whole guilt thing. He was already weird about people being around while he was fighting. Like when he was first fighting Ukeora and like Orihime was around, so he was like, I can't fully fight him. And now he's probably gonna be even more cautious of like who's around him while he's fighting. He's different. Nope. It's true though. He doesn't look like he's having fun or like kind of feeding off of the adrenaline. Like Ichigo's always kind of liked fighting. Um, it's always been like a little bit fun for him. He's always kind of liked the adrenaline rush of fighting, and he definitely does not seem like he wants to be in this fight. He just wants it all to be over. Ooh, he is not here to play though. Oh, you can see the kind of like, I don't know, almost like the effort of turning hollow and then back. Yep. They're closer to the mask that he has when he goes like full hollow. Because it's different now. Do you mind, Yami? Ichigo's going through a bit of a crisis. You're gonna have to be patient with him, which is probably too much to ask of Yami. Ooh. I guess also like Ichigo doesn't know that the other Espada are dead now. So he's probably also like wanting to get to the living world because he's like have to defeat other Espada too. Have we seen the Bala before? Yeah, Ichigo really isn't like about strategy so much as like he figures it out as he goes along. And almost like instinct, like he just sort of knows how to use certain techniques and certain styles and stuff. Ichigo just kind of like it's almost like muscle memory where his body just kind of knows what to do. Uh-oh. What happened? Time limit? Power issue? Or is it because he's trying to hold back? Or possibly White Ichigo? I don't trust for a second the White Ichigo isn't like somewhere in there, just waiting for his chance. Well, I don't like that. What's happening? I was gonna say Mayuri? Is this why they haven't been around? They've been pushing that caravan. Oh, Byakuya? Ooh, Byakuya. Ooh, his head again. Honestly, I'm gonna get him a helmet. Kenpachi. Those two are an interesting pair up to like fight together. It's true, he does get beat up everywhere he goes. You'd better move out of the way, Ichigo. If Kenpachi has decided that he is going to fight this Espada, just get out of the way. Let him do his thing. Is he going into rage mode again? Kenpachi's gonna love this. The strongest Espada, and he gets to fight it? He's gonna be so happy about that. I don't know if he'll appreciate getting help from anyone, let alone Byakuya, though. It's true. I was gonna say, I'm assuming that Mayuri's got something worked out to get back to the living world. Right. That was a long time ago. We try to remember those episodes. Nephew in the back just doing all the work, heavy lifting. Unohana should definitely go because if she's a healer, that would be quite nice considering how many people are beat up in the living world. You trust him? Really? That seems like a bad idea. Is she goading him on a little bit? Unohana's got something going on. She's like a little bit sus. Like there's she seems like really gentle and caring, which is great for like squad 4, but also like there's probably a reason that she's a captain. Yeah, they got this, Ichigo. You don't have to do everything yourself. It's true. That's your job as a Soul Reaper. Plus, your reason for coming to Huecomundo was to get Orihime and take her back home. So, you should also do that. Not gonna say hi? We're ignoring family? Oh, I'm so excited. Also nervous, but I'm always a little bit nervous. At this point, I care too much about the characters to not be nervous about, like, every conflict. But I'm glad that we're getting back to the living world. I'm assuming we're also going to spend some time watching Kenpachi and Byakuya fight Yammy. I'm wondering though if Rukia is gonna go with Ichigo or if he's gonna want her to stay behind. I don't know who's gonna go with him and who's gonna like stay and deal with all the stuff that's happening in Hueco I'm just happy that the stories are like finally starting to like come together because they've been like separate for so long. They spent like Ichigo spent such a long time in Hueco that like to be back at the living world, it's probably only been like maybe a couple of days, but it feels like it's been a really long time because it's been like a good chunk of the show, at least for the main story that's been in this arc. Ah, yes, and the previews for the filler episode. So we'll have to come back and see that at a different time. I wanted to see this. I wanted to see the like ghost story. Oh, it's just gone. I like that we're getting the captains coming back into this fight and facing Yami, kind of making it very obvious where Ichigo's focus needs to be. And I feel like he's gotten a little bit off track. What with everything that's been going on, trying to save Orihime was his original goal, and then all of this stuff with Arrancar and Espada and Aizen, and there's been a lot of craziness going on for this whole arc, but the real goal is to get Orihime and to protect his hometown. So like those should be Ichigo's priorities, and he's kind of gotten off track as he kind of sees himself, I think, needing to be alone or like wanting to separate himself. I think a lot of that feeling of separation is because he doesn't want to hurt anyone who's around him. He feels like whenever he has to fight that he ends up putting his friends in danger and people around him in danger, which, I mean, definitely after what happened with Ishida and him going into this weird hollow second phase thing, that I totally understand that that's where he is feeling. So I felt like for a lot of that he was like, I have to do this. And like I was saying, without the like excitement or the like rush that comes with fighting, I feel like Ichigo usually has something like that, and in this instance he was, it was just like a thing he had to do. You know, he was like, I have to win this fight, like I have to get past this and back into the living world. This is just something I have to do, so I guess I'll do it. It doesn't have the same kind of glint in his eye that he usually has, and I love the detail put into the way that he looked at Rukia. Not only was that an important thing for her to understand a little bit of how he was feeling, and shows how she's able to read him really well without them actually having to say anything like straightforward to each other, which is something we've seen a lot. Like neither of them is big about like talking about their feelings and having like, you know, emotional conversations with each other, but they are really good at reading each other's body language and figuring that out. So it's great to have that detail as something to kind of pull that story line through, to have like Rukia understanding what Ichigo is currently going through, but it's also just a good detail for a viewer to be able to see the difference in his expression compared to other times. And it really made me think of when he turned around to Grimjo, when he had that kind of very iconic moment where he turned around and was very confident that he was going to defeat Grimjo. He had like a smirk, there was this glimmer in his eye, and he was like very much ready to go into his hollow form and win this fight. And I feel like this was kind of a parallel. He's turning the opposite way, which I also think is interesting. He was turning left for you, I guess. He was turning left when he was looking at Grimjo, and in this one he's turning right. So I don't know if that's like an intentional detail that they were mirroring that moment, or if that's just me reading too much into that, but I think it's interesting to have those two scenes kind of juxtaposed with each other, where one, Ichigo was having fun with the fight and definitely saw it as something that he not only needed to do, but something that he wanted to do, and, you know, put that next to this fight where he really doesn't have his heart in it anymore. And we're gonna have to deal with him kind of progressing through that and figuring out what he's going to do, specifically with his hollow form, which he used briefly, talking about how the mask was, one, different. We had Rukia talking about how the markings were different, and then two, about it having like a different weight to it. And I am wondering if that is because he is trying to suppress some of the power, like he isn't supposed to have that kind of intermediary spot between like not being in hollow form and then the kind of like full hollow form, and he's just kind of pulling back and that's causing some issues, or if it's because it's just become unstable in some way, whether that is because Ichigo is like fearful of it or doubtful of it and that's kind of playing with his ability to actually use it, or if it has something to do with maybe white Ichigo interfering, or like, you know, the hollow self of Ichigo getting in the way of that and wanting to have control of the body and stuff like that. So there definitely is going to be some kind of internal conflict that we're going to have to deal with Ichigo, but it does look like he is traveling back to the living world. I was right about Mayuri being the one who was going to be figuring out how we were getting back. And I like that callback all the way back to when he defeated the pink hair Espada and was in his kind of laboratory. We had the kind of the reveal of him finding something, but we never actually like finished up that plot line, which I like. I'm gonna admit I completely forgot because we derailed into a bunch of other stuff, so it slipped my mind, but good callback to that detail and setting up that point. So he is going back. I would suspect that we are going to stay with the Yammy fight, so we're going to see Byakuya and Kenpachi go up against him mainly before we transition fully into the living world. I'll be interested to see if any of the characters besides Unohana decide to travel back to the living world with Ichigo, like Urukia, Sado, Renji, if they want to go back with him and help him out, if he will let them, because again, he's kind of separating himself from them because he doesn't want anyone to get hurt. So we will have to wait and see. Maybe we'll get a little bit of Ichigo's story and then some of the Yammy fight that's going on. I hope that Ichigo brings Orihime with him, one, because that was like why he went to Huecomundo, so it would like be a bit ridiculous if he ended up going back to the living world without her, but also we have Hiyori who needs some Orihime attention, so hopefully he will bring her back with him. You can click this playlist to go and see my previous reactions, or you can subscribe so you don't miss the next time I post a Bleach reaction, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!